Hi, I'm Matt Despard. I'm with the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in the School of Social Work. And I and my team were invited here to Making Sense International today on January 13th, 2012. And we were talking about the project work that we've done in the Assets Africa project in rural Uganda and the USAID project in Ghana, which is a financial inclusion experiment. We work under the leadership of our principal investigator, Dr. Gina Choa, on both of those projects, and we use this event today to talk about three key issues to consider in increasing the rigor of our efforts to evaluate youth economic opportunity interventions. The first point that we made was the idea of considering a quasi-experiment when a randomized experiment is impractical, it's infeasible, or it's just simply not ethical given the considerations on the ground. Now, what a quasi-experiment does is instead of using randomization, you have a group of people who receive your intervention, but you then have a comparison group. Now, those two groups aren't randomly assigned, but at least what you have is a group of people who don't get your intervention that you can use to compare outcomes with respect to the group that did get your intervention. And we talked about, once you have your data, the importance of using propensity score analytical methods to statistically balance the differences between those two groups. We also talked today about the importance of process informative evaluation procedures, specifically in making good observations concerning fidelity. Did we actually implement this project to the extent that we intended it, or as we had intended it? And making sure there are good observations on the way in which the intervention actually was implemented, and again, how faithful that implementation was to the intervention guide or the intervention manual. And the reason why that's important is if the intervention perhaps wasn't implemented to full fidelity, which can often be the case given a number of challenges on the ground, then that can help explain our outcomes. We also talked about the importance of measuring dosage. So this idea that youth in our projects, not all youth are going to get the same amount of the intervention. To use an example with financial education, let's say we have a 20-hour curriculum. Well, let's pretend that perhaps half of the youth get 10 hours or less of that financial education for different reasons, and then the other half gets, say, 15 or more hours of that intervention, of that financial education. So we'd have a high dosage group and a low dosage group, and we want to pay attention to that because we would probably expect those outcomes to be different for the high and the low dosage group. Lastly, what we talked about today were a host of different measurement issues with youth economic empowerment projects, and probably first and foremost among those is simply having a clear idea about the change process and what your assumptions are about how change will occur. How will youth save more money? How will they be more financially capable? How will they have greater livelihood skills? What's your theory of change? To know exactly what you should be measuring, but also exactly what you shouldn't be measuring. And so the importance of being careful not to measure things that could likely be impacted by things that are beyond your control. And kind of a classic example that we like to talk about is how you might want to be careful about measuring as an outcome the youth unemployment rate for an entire community, because something like that can be impacted by so many other factors than your intervention. It's important to stick closely to your theory of change in those specific things that you feel that you're really going to impact.